And two news and views with myself, Salalo Makwidiri. And as I mentioned before we went to that short break, we're going to be kickstarting the show a bit differently today. We're going to be having our hashtag Africa Focus feature to kickstart the show. And if you were listening to the show yesterday, we had a conversation around Eswatini and them agreeing to take in some of America's dangerous convicted criminals. These are hardened criminals, rapists, murderers, and essentially America said, well, we don't want you anymore. We don't want you in this country anymore. We should deport you back home to various countries. And I think Venezuela, Peru, Brazil, Vietnam were some of the countries that these convicted criminals were from. But what happened was something quite bizarre. Their own country said, no, we also don't want them. They were convicted in America. They should serve their sentences there. And the Americans said, well, what's the next best thing then? Ship them off to Africa. They'll make a plan there. We'll give them something on the side. They'll take these guys. And they ship them off to our neighbors, Eswatini. And we're going to be having a conversation around something similar. We're going to be heading over to East Africa. And the focus will be on Rwanda, where a deal has now been reached for up to 250 migrants that have been deported from the US to be resettled in that country. The agreement was signed quietly back in June, but only now is it making waves as concerns mount over whether African nations are being used as third country dumping sites for people unwanted in the West. Washington has already sent its first list of 10 deportees to Kigali. They're vetting them. Rwanda's government says the initiative reflects their commitment to reintegration and rehabilitation. But we ask the question, is this diplomacy? Is it desperation? But ultimately, we can all agree that to an extent, it is very, very dangerous. And we'll be unpacking all of that with a good friend of the station coming to us live from Uganda to help us unpack what the neighbors are doing on their end of the woods. It's Musinguzi Goodluck. He's a journalist and editor with Kigezi News and is joining us via our virtual platform. Musinguzi, how's it, my brother? Great to see you again. Welcome to Salam Media.
Thank you very much. Greetings from Kampala, Uganda. I'm near Lake Victoria. The weather is so good. We're happy to be back on the air to talk with you.
Now, beautiful part of the continent. I want to just jump into it, the issue at hand. What do you make of the news that Rwanda has agreed to take up 250 migrants from the US? They're calling it third country deportation deal. There's a lot of eyebrows that, are being raised across the continent. Are we being used as a dumping site for people that are unwanted by the West?
The question is it compassion? Is it financial incentive? What is it? But we all know that Rwanda and the UK had a program that where the United Kingdom paid more than 100 million pounds to build some settlements so that they would accept migrants who were going to UK. But we know the government fell apart because of that. One of the many reasons, it was also among that. But the United States of America has decided to do this, and Africa looks like some countries are willing to do this either out of fear or because they have had programs that are financially. Because for me, I see it's more of the finances. Because when you talk about the US will provide, jobs, financial incentives, Though my worry in East Africa is that the last time I think Israel did something like that, people ended up in Uganda. And I will not be surprised that us, the neighbors, we might end up again hosting these people. Now, what is interesting is that a country like Uganda, over the years, even when you look at the South African history, is that Uganda, we have an open policy of allowing people who are running away but we have not had a case scenario of immigrants uh, being brought in as a third party country to allow them. But what we know is that our neighbors, when they have had issues, that most people again end up coming to Uganda. So as East Africa, we question that if people are looking at the financial incentives, maybe that is it. But will these people stay in this country? Now, for the first time, there are some Rwandese who have gone on Twitter and have opposed this. They are saying you rather build something near their airport called Kanombe, and maybe have these people there so that you don't bring them back into society. So, like you said, these are rapists, these are hardcore criminals. And when you allow them into a country, what does it mean? Already countries are grappling with their own challenges of internal problems handling criminals and all that. And now you bring in hardcore guys who have been, even their countries have said essentially we don't want you. So it's a concern for the continent, but I can see the bullying around there, and also as the US takes away USAID and all these other financial help. It seems in these 4 years of Trump that countries who want to partake of the US dollars might, turn around and say, if this is what is there, we'd rather take it. And I will not be surprised when Eswatini, and I'm told there's a third country in Africa, which I'm yet to know. There are different countries which might do that. But for us, like here in Uganda, we support, we help people who are running away on compassion basis. We had the South Africans come and stay here, and they were trained and until they went back home to liberate their country. We have Sudanese, Upper Sudan, we have Southern Sudanese, Congolese, so many people, close to 2 million people, Eritreans, all over the world, people are here. But we have not had the case of immigrants. Now, as how Rwanda will handle this, it remains to be seen, but I hope they don't, after receiving the money, and they let them move around and they end up in countries like Uganda.
And I think that's that's the concern here, because yesterday, as I mentioned when I did my intro, we covered a similar kind of deal involving Eswatini, where this time I don't think they just said deportees or people that didn't have the right paperwork to be in America. It was clear these were criminals. These were people that were convicted of murders. These are people that were convicted of sexual assaults and rape. And Eswatini said we'll have them. And as I'm listening to you speak, you're saying there's concern in Uganda that ultimately those 120 or whatever the number is, they ultimately might find themselves in Uganda. And that's the concern we have here in South Africa. Eswatini is, with all due respect, relatively small. The next big thing next to Eswatini is South Africa. Very good neighbors of ours, I should mention. But ultimately, the fear is South Africa already is dealing with a big crime problem. And ultimately, these criminals might make their way here. We might find they're in Johannesburg or Cape Town or Durban at some point. This trend that we're seeing, that you mentioned also, of African nations becoming, convenient destinations for deportees that the US doesn't want to deal with, how much of it, and I know you mentioned Trump, how much of it is influenced by the need of African countries to be in the good books, so to say, of the United States of America? We saw how Trump is just dishing out tariffs and sanctions to everyone that he believes is not a friend, is not doesn't have a beneficial relationship to the US. Do you think we're falling into that trap instead of negotiating with America economically and diplomatically? We say, just work with us, buy our produce, protect us, let's be in your good books, and we'll take whatever that you dish out to us.
I think Africa finds itself in the midst, where it is too hot to swallow, but also too hot to fall in the pan. And for me, the US President Donald Trump said these countries are not sending their best to us. They are sending criminals, they are sending rapists, they are sending what? And now you're saying Africa should take in these guys. Okay, fine. Let's take them in. But also remember, you are using the tariffs to also. So it means that Africa, and our president has been saying it, he has been addressing many of the military students, generals, and who are in military colleges across the continent who come. And he keeps asking, who will protect Africa? And for the first time, we are vulnerable. You saw what President Obama did. Gaddafi went. Africa could not find a solution. And now we talk of independence, we talk of so much English, but when it comes to the reality is that we are so vulnerable. We either accept that we are not at the table, and this is the problem, is that history is repeating itself. That when they went to partition Africa, when they decided that they are going to, to own us, to discover what we already knew, that this, even when they gave us independence, it was just a cover-up. We are weak people. We cannot negotiate for ourselves, which is very sad. And we can see that rise up, they will put tariffs on you. Even the BRICS, where we are running to, we don't know whether it will work out. So I think the economic mass of the US should not be misused, because you can see we are the pawn. We are just in between being tossed. Russia, China. Now America has come up with a tough president who is saying, you don't do what I want, I'll do this. So and I can see many African countries are going to chicken, and they will say, we are here, do what you want, because essentially we can't survive. And therefore Trump is just making 1 year soon. There's another 3 years until when most African countries might give in, because we don't have a strong back to push back and say no. Because even our friends in the East, for them, even also when they come to trade with us, it's not about helping Africa. It's about taking as much as they can. And so I see Africa very vulnerable. And as you said, South Africa, definitely those people will be in South Africa. And the people who are coming to Rwanda definitely will be here in Kampala. And the next we shall be handling things we might not. See how we have handled terrorism. Our children, when we went to Somalia, when the Americans had failed and they gave in the financial incentives, today, up today, there's no peace. People continue to die.
And that's a very, very concerning picture that you are painting. I want to focus on Rwanda. The government has framed this as a humanitarian gesture. They are citing, their country's history with displacement, and then they're promising, job training and healthcare for the migrants that are coming in. They are your neighbors. You are very, very close. You know their business. How convincing is this narrative? Is Rwanda capable of delivering on some of those promises?
Let me first ask a question to myself. They have refugees in Uganda. So if you are compassionate, you come and pick your people. Why is it that people are running away? So if we were compassionate, today in Uganda, yes, we have people are seeking for political asylum, but at least we don't have a refugee center somewhere of Ugandans, they run away because of this. But here we have Nachivale in Isinjo in Western Uganda. Most of those people are Rwandese. And therefore, when you say you have a history of being compassionate, I doubt whether that stands, and it will not stand. It's an economic benefit. Let them take it in. But hopefully, they will not have a history of saying, we have gotten our dime, the money has been paid, you are free to do what you want. And the next, they will use the porous borders. Because when they come here, when they eventually cross, Uganda does not have a history of sending away people who are running away. And therefore, Rwanda must come clean and also go and pick its people who are refugees in other countries. So for me, the compassionate issue doesn't make sense to me. What makes sense to me is that the economic, financial bit part of it, if it failed in the UK, maybe the US is going to come in, and the UK, these people are going to use facilities built by the United Kingdom. That is it.
Just lastly, before I let you go, Brother Goodluck, this deal allows Rwanda to approve or reject each migrant individually. What do you expect to happen in the rollout of this agreement? There's 10 already that are in Kigali to be vetted. Listening to the neighbors next door, do you think there could be some kind of a political or legal pushback, or this is going through, it is happening, whether the people like it or not?
My friend, you are talking of Rwanda. If you are talking of Uganda, you'd have debates here and there. But in Rwanda, you will not. They will not be. They will not push because they live in a different setup and that's why when you see people running to Uganda or even our neighbors finding it easier to come and enjoy their money from here, they know. But to those of us who know, we know that the country is heavily policed, and therefore you speak up, they come for you. And I imagine even those who are speaking up online must be far away from the capital. They must be in other countries. And therefore there will be no pushback. The people will have to accept the decision by their country. But for us as neighbors, we also have to watch. And we also don't know whether our countries are also being asked the same to maybe you never know. Another day you'd hear maybe Uganda is taking some of those people. So I think we are going to see prisons being made, built. You see that prison where they have put crocodiles around in the US and kind of things. So, and because Trump is under pressure, he's under pressure to perform. He said he will deport millions. And because the million numbers are not moving, so Rwanda you say we have a saying here in our African setup that when you have accepted, whatever comes is what you get. So I think for me, they will not vet anyone. They will just accept. Since they have accepted, I think with the dollars, because their currency is sort of coming down, they need the dollars. It's us actually in the region who have a stronger currency now because of the current investments in the oil sector and all these other ones. So I don't see, but if Uganda is mentioned among those countries, I think it will be a very big debate here. And I could see the opposition, the legal aspect. People here are free to go to courts to challenge some of these things. But in Rwanda, I doubt.
I think we're going to leave it on that note. Good luck, and a very, very bleak picture that you're painting. The fact that not even any of those 100+ migrants coming from all over the world might not be vetted. So it means you literally could have anyone, come into the country. You don't know what their intentions are, and just because the people at the top are getting some kind of kickback from this, from the United States. Everyone else is compromised. So I think, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one pans out. But we'll definitely be keeping in touch with you just to get the latest. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good day.
That was Musinguzi Goodluck, journalist and editor with Kigezi News out in Uganda. And yeah, giving us insight, I think, on a very, very concerning story and a concerning pattern that we're seeing unfold on the African continent. Yesterday, we spoke about Eswatini and them accepting 5 hardened criminals, rapists, murderers into their country. The concern with that is they could ultimately find themselves here in Johannesburg, here in Durban, Cape Town, South Africa. We have porous borders, and who knows what might happen after that. We're already dealing with a big, big problem of crime in the country. And yeah, we're getting the best straight out of the US. And now, this is Rwanda. What do you think? Do you believe it's right for African countries like Rwanda or Eswatini to take migrants or convicts deported by powerful Western nations like the UK, like the United States of America? Is this smart diplomacy, or is Africa being exploited under the guise of partnership? And where's the pride, man, from our African leaders to say, no, you're not going to use us as a dumping site for probably some of the worst people in the world? But again, this is Donald Trump, and at this point, everyone is scrambling. Hey, all leaders across the world, doesn't matter. You're in Switzerland, you're in Rwanda, it doesn't matter. Everyone is scrambling to try and be in the good books of the United States of America. And people are compromising themselves. Even with these last minute tariff deals, do you honestly feel like when you're desperate and you're coming in cap in hand to Donald Trump, he'll give you the best deal? The United States is compromised, and these are the last kicks of a dying horse, to use that proverb. And African leaders are, it's just disheartening, man, sometimes to see. Eswatini, right next door, you are being told clearly these people are criminals. We don't want them in the United States of America. They are rapists. They are murderers. They are not the best of the best. And King Mswati, right next door, says, no, don't stress. There's too much land here in Eswatini here. We even have South Africa next door, where I think we can all agree at this point that ultimately that's where they're going to end up. These people, their own country said, we don't want them. They're not welcomed here. But our leaders, again, because they are guarded by their high walls, they have 24-hour security. They couldn't be bothered. They're never going to see these people. They're never going to, help them integrate, if there's even such a thing. They will make sure that you and I, the people of Africa, deal with the consequences while they reap the benefits thereof. What are your thoughts? You can call us on 011-680-0355 or send us a WhatsApp voice note 061-766-0355. Number one, what do you make of Eswatini and them accepting 5 hardened criminals from the United States? Their own country said they don't want them. Vietnam, I think Colombia, Venezuela, those guys were from there. Hardened criminals that the prison system in America also said we can't deal with these ones. We need to ship them off somewhere. Well, they are just next door. Go to Mpumalanga, Eswatini. They are there. Some of the most hardened criminals. Another one is Rwanda. 120 migrants from all over the world. And we all know they're not going to be properly vetted. And from Rwanda, they'll spread all across the continent. And we know South Africa is the destination of choice. So we might have to deal with that also. Uganda is already, from what Musinguzi is saying, is already panicking over this. They're saying we have Rwandese in here. And it's fine. They are brothers. It's okay. But they're bringing extra people who we don't know, who are so unfamiliar with the way that we do things. We know nothing about these people and what intentions and why America in itself, as big and powerful and mighty as it is, said we also don't want them here. It's really disappointing. Really, really disappointing. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues.